Recently, I talked about the history of Minecraft's infamous 1.9 combat update. This was an update that caused massive controversy and split the Minecraft community. But this wasn't the first update in the game's history to cause major controversy. Before Minecraft's official release, Mojang released a string of beta updates to gather feedback to help shape this sandbox game into what it would forever be. The Minecraft community was much smaller than it is today, and Notch, who is the original creator of Minecraft, was very responsive to the community's feedback. For most players, every beta update moved the game in a better direction, except for one: Minecraft beta version 1.8. also known as the Adventure Update. This update was huge. It changed so many of the core mechanics all at once that many players considered beta 1.8 to be the cutoff between old and new Minecraft. So let's go over what this update had to offer. As I previously stated, this was the Adventure Update. Several changes were made to the way the world was generated. One of the biggest additions was the introduction of 3 new structures. Now, when exploring a Minecraft world, players could stumble across villages, strongholds, and abandoned mineshafts. Strongholds actually didn't have a purpose yet though. There was no end dimension or anything worth going to the structure for. In fact, Eyes of Ender weren't even added to help assist you in discovering one. Mojang was simply laying out the groundwork for a quote-unquote way to beat the game. And this is actually one of the things some players took issue with. Minecraft wasn't ever meant to be a game to beat. It was a sandbox game for its entire life up to this point, and players had grown accustomed to that. But nowadays, to progress your world and get the best items, you have to follow the groundwork laid out by beta 1.8. Go to the Nether to get blaze rods so you can craft Eyes of Ender to find the stronghold and beat the Ender Dragon. Then use the portal gateways to explore the end cities to obtain the Elytra. Players did not like the game shifting in this direction. They just liked Minecraft as a game with no story or point to make. A sandbox where you could do whatever you wanted without having to go on a specific journey to progress. A lot of modern Minecraft players couldn't imagine the game without strongholds in the end dimension, as they're an integral part of the game. Any major change to the status quo is bound to upset players in any game. It all comes down to preference. Structures were pretty cool to find when exploring a Minecraft world, but 1.8 also had some major terrain generation changes that were the cause of big backlash. Before 1.8, terrain was abstract and unpredictable, but it was part of the appeal of Minecraft. 1.8 changed world generation to be more flat and mundane, meaning it didn't have that charm factor anymore. It was more polished and realistic, but that made it boring. Not all of the terrain was flat, however. They did add a new extreme hills biome where mountainous generation could still be found, but that was still pretty lame compared to the old generation you would see in any other biome before 1.8. People were so disappointed of this change that mods were developed for new versions of Minecraft that brought the beta 1.7 world generation into newer versions so that people could enjoy the newer content while also not having to deal with the mundaneness of post 1.8 world generation. However, this wasn't even the end of it. Another new biome, the ocean biome, was also added. Technically, oceans were already in Minecraft, but they actually weren't considered a biome. Technically, they were coded as a structure. The problem with oceans was that Mojang made them huge. The farther you went from the center of your world, the higher the likelihood the biome would be ocean. It wasn't uncommon for oceans to span tens of thousands or even 100,000 blocks. You could sit in a boat for hours just holding the W key and not see land the whole time. The idea was that Minecraft worlds were continental now, but realism doesn't translate to fun, and ultimately oceans made worlds less fun to explore. Another major thing that caused a lot of backlash in beta 1.8 was the hunger bar. And this to many players was the most hated change. Before beta 1.8, there was no hunger bar. If you got hurt, you would replenish your health instantly by eating food, and if you didn't get hurt, you never had to eat. But now over time, your hunger bar would deplete even if you didn't get hurt. Instead of eating to directly heal your health, eating would fill up your hunger bar. When your hunger bar was full, you would slowly regain health over time. If you let your hunger bar drain, you would begin starving and taking damage. For a lot of players, this didn't make the survival experience fun. They never had to deal with something like this before, so as a result, they felt like they were being punished for no reason. The The hunger bar was just an unnecessary hassle. It felt like you had to eat constantly while playing, making food gathering an important task for any survival playthrough. There was a benefit that came as a result to counterbalance the dreaded hunger system though. That was the ability to sprint. Sprinting was one of the actions that would cause your hunger bar to drain quicker. It was very beneficial to helping players get out of dangerous situations and was just a convenient way to get somewhere faster. To a newer player, sprinting may seem like it would be a universally praised feature, even if the hunger system attached to it was not a fan favorite. But some argue to this day, sprinting made Minecraft way too easy. It made it simple to not have to engage with mobs, which removed a lot of the challenge that came with surviving a night in Minecraft. The challenge of the night and the mobs that you had to deal with was what made the Minecraft experience so fun and fulfilling. In fact, surviving your first night used to be considered a major obstacle and something that took a lot of effort to do right. I mean, just look at the top performing videos on how to survive a night from around this time versus some newer ones. Before sprinting, even experienced players needed help maneuvering the night, but nowadays, the night is easy to survive. You can essentially explore the world at night with no risk. If you get in danger, you can just run away. This leads us into another gripe with the update: lighting. It sounds like a fairly minor complaint, but the lighting was another factor that made surviving a Minecraft night too easy. Before beta 1.8, nights were dark. You weren't able to see even a few blocks in front of you without a light source. Beta 1.8 added a light slider so that players can make their worlds much brighter than before, giving clear visibility even during the night. This made the night a lot less scary and therefore boring, since you didn't have that constant terror of a mob being only a couple of blocks from you. Even the dimmest setting on the slider was still brighter than it was before. Not only that, but beta 1.8 smoothed out some lighting, which disappointed players who felt nostalgic for the old jagged lighting. A lot of the changes just took out a lot of the fulfillment and charm out of Minecraft. But these changes were arguably for the better because they made Minecraft more accessible and enjoyable for the casual player. People often compare this update to the 1.9 combat update. People love to claim, as controversial as 1.9 was, it still wasn't as bad as the controversy sparked by beta 1.8. But I think it's hard to make that argument when 1.9 literally permanently split the Minecraft community to the point where major servers still refuse to update to official release 1.9. I don't think it's fair to say the combat changes were necessary to Minecraft's longevity, when tens of thousands of players every single day to this day are still enjoying 1.8 combat, not including the Bedrock players who never even received the 1.9 combat changes. There is still a niche community of Minecraft players who refuse to update beyond beta 1.7, but it's much smaller than the hardcore 1.8 PvP player base. I also think the comparison is bogus because I think beta 1.8 made the game more appealing and simple for the casual player, whereas 1.9 did the opposite. The new combat system was confusing to new players, and Jeb himself even admitted this as being one of the biggest problems with 1.9 combat. 1.9 made the game much more complicated. Complicated mechanics aren't necessarily a bad thing, but in 1.9's case, they just weren't fun or necessary. Whereas I would say the changes made to beta 1.8 were necessary for the game and helped casual players enjoy Minecraft much more. Beta 1.8 gets a lot of hate, and I've covered a lot of the negative aspects of it, but there's two sides to every coin, so I wanted to go over some of the positive changes that came from some of the controversial ones. We already went over how sprinting came along with the hunger bar, but another benefit that came with it was the ability to stack food. That's right, before beta 1.8, one piece of food would take up an entire slot. Carrying 64 pieces of food in one slot made things much more convenient, and this is actually the first version where cows and chickens would actually drop food, rather than just leather or feathers, making food an easier resource to collect. Also, one important thing about beta 1.8 was that it was the first version to allow players to pick between survival or creative mode. Earlier versions of the game forced the player to either play in creative or survival, but now they had the choice to either endure the challenges of surviving or being able to build and do whatever they want without having to gather resources or have a fear of dying. Creative mode was a great mode to really encapsulate Minecraft's sandbox feeling that survival mode was beginning to lose. As bad as beta 1.8 can be framed, it's important to remember there were many compromises to satisfy the complaints about some of these poorly received changes. and over the years, Mojang would continue addressing some of the problems caused by this update. The hunger system has gotten several adjustments over the years. The last changes to it were made in release 1.11, where the exhaustion rates were decreased for just about every action, including making it so that sneaking and walking would never drain your hunger bar. Allowing the player to play longer without having to eat was certainly a relief to many, and most players today agree that the current hunger system has been fine-tuned to be in a pretty good position. Even though healing isn't instant, healing occurs much faster now, but funnily enough, that's actually considered to be a problem by the devs because of the 1.9 combat mechanics. Official release 1.7 also changed world generation drastically, adding cool, exciting new biomes as well as decreasing the size of oceans. The idea of continental world generation was actually pretty cool in my opinion. I think oceans should have stayed big, just maybe not 100,000 blocks big. On top of the new biomes would now sometimes generate with an M variant, which stood for mountainous. This was to help appease the complaint the modern terrain generation was boring and lifeless. Mountainous variants would have a bit more depth like 1.7 beta terrain. Mojang also added a new world type called Amplified for those who still didn't think world generation was exciting enough. This world type generated terrain much higher than normal worlds, and you would commonly find terrain naturally generating weird shapes you almost never saw in a normal world. And official release 1.18 would change world generation drastically again to add more mountains and less flat terrains in Minecraft worlds. The biggest issues caused by beta 1.8 have been addressed and fixed by Mojang over the years to make them the best they can be, and that should be acknowledged. Now, if only they would do the same for combat. I would highly recommend that every Minecraft player at some point tries beta 1.7 for themselves, aka the last version that's considered old Minecraft to many players, so that you can have a better understanding as to why people consider this to be the best version of Minecraft to date. Beta 1.7 is a really old version of Minecraft that, at a glance, can't seem much more empty than modern versions of the game. But beta 1.7 teaches a player to appreciate the smaller things. It may not have as many items, mobs, or biomes, but sometimes less is more. You feel more fulfilled about achieving things that you just don't feel the same appreciation for anymore. Just as an example, think about diamonds. Finding diamonds in Minecraft nowadays just doesn't have the same satisfying feeling as finding them in the early days. With how big caves are, how many structures are generated with diamonds in them, and with OP villager trades, finding diamonds just doesn't have that same dopamine rush. I can certainly sympathize and understand older Minecraft players' feelings towards the modern game, but I don't think it's fair to say one version is better than the other. Both beta and modern versions have their perks and are good in different ways, so give beta 1.7 a try. It may not sound nearly as good as modern survival, but I think if you give it a real shot, you'll be surprised. Beta 1.8's changes were not received well at the time, but necessary to ensure the long-term health and stability of the game. Would Minecraft hold up today if there wasn't an end dimension and a final boss? Without these things, the whole category of speedrunning really couldn't exist. Minecraft speedrunning's most popular category is seeing how fast a player could beat the Ender Dragon. We also wouldn't have series like Dream's Manhunt series, which are some of the most popular Minecraft videos ever, meaning they exposed Minecraft to a wider audience and garnered a lot of interest in the game. And let's be real, the old non-existent hunger system would not work well today. Having food being able to instantly heal you would have made PvP horrible, and there would be no reason for healing potions. Players talk about wanting a more challenging and fulfilling Minecraft experience, but is being able to obtain items that can make you go from 1 heart to 10 in less than a second simply by killing a few passive mobs a great survival mechanic? If you don't sprint or take damage, then you'll hardly lose hunger points anyway. And without sprinting, the game would be more tedious and annoying to play. It's fair to argue that Minecraft survival could be more challenging, but sprinting is a mechanic that needs to stay. Let me know what you think about beta 1.8. Do you think the changes were good for the game? Do you think beta 1.7 survival is better than 1.20 survival? Let me know in the comments below. Until my next video, peace out.